and enjoy yourself on video forever. All right, we have a lot to go over today, so I want to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, and we are short Greg and Vernon. And we know Greg will not be here, but we have not heard from Vernon, so we'll proceed on as we are planning. First item on the agenda today is the approval of the February minutes. They are in your package for review. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to approve as presented. So moved. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving signify by saying aye, please. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Ayes have it. We'll move on to the treasurer's report. Mr. Treasurer.
You've got 3 pieces of paper in your packet. First is the assets. The second is liabilities and debt. And the third one is what we've actually spent this month. We received $227.18 in interest off of our CDs. We've paid out $130 to the accountant, $38.48 to Evergy, $15 for the monthly QuickBook, $5 statement fee from the bank, and we've had paid $358 for our board and executive insurance, the bonding insurance. Just one item of note. On the assets, you'll see cash and secondary checking. Commerce Bank is down to $68, and I've authorized a $1,500 transfer from primary to secondary, so we've got operating money in that. Yeah, it will come out next month. Other than that, that's everything I've got to present.
Does anybody have any questions from the treasurer and about the reports? Hearing none, we will entertain a motion to approve as presented. Motion, is there a second? A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Gotcha, thank you.
Sorry.
I didn't hear it.
I shouldn't shout that. Okay, all those in favor to approve as presented, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Ayes have it. Moving on to LCDC report in your package. Lisa, please.
Thank you. If you can see that we've had a few new projects recently. Actually, this last week has been one of the busiest I've experienced this year so far. We got 3 projects since Friday, and for one of them, we submitted 2 properties, one in Leavenworth and one in Tonganoxie. I'll start at the top. Civil. This was a global manufacturing company looking for 2 existing buildings, so that we just didn't have that, so I did not submit for keeping track of that. Project Hedron. It was a pretty intense RFI, and I want to share a little bit about that with you, just because I think it's interesting. One of these RFIs will say, hey, do you have a property? Can you just, if so, please provide a brochure and maybe a couple of answers to some questions. This is the one that comes with an Excel sheet, has a couple of tabs, has tons of questions, and then so it just takes time to complete these. And I kind of thought if you just let me go through a couple of my process. The first thing what I'll do is I will look at the RFI and think about, do we have a site? And I identified 2 places in the county, one in Leavenworth, one in Tonganoxie. I reached out to the communities and asked them, do you think this looks like a potential fit, or should we look at it? And so both got approvals from both communities. Then becomes the information gathering time. And this requires immediately reaching out to all the utilities. Because obviously they're gonna ask for capacity. They're gonna ask if these sites can handle the capacity for electric, for gas, for water, for wastewater. So those are all different entities with all different processes to find that information. So I immediately send out those requests and say, this project needs this amount of capacity, can you provide this? And then they have to take it and send it to all their engineers. So it's not something that they can turn right around and answer. And then a lot of times there's questions from those engineers that go back to me, and then I gotta go back and ask the project lead. So you can imagine it takes time. So that's why we get those questions out as soon as possible. They do their very best to try and get the information in the short deadline, which we had a week for this one. Also, what was I gonna say? Oh, and one of the interesting things about the electric, it came in a totally different metric than our electric companies are used to working with. So not only do they have to see if it can meet the capacity, they also have to convert all that information before they begin looking to see if they can provide that. The next step, well, I will just say no two RFIs are alike. It would be great if we had a very uniform set of questions and we could just provide the answers each time and save time. But like I said, none of them are alike, and we always get questions that we don't get in any other ones. This one came, wanted to know what seismic zone are you in? It wanted to know the most recent natural disasters and what were they in these communities. So, I mean, it's just a lot of, research for things that, I've never researched before for projects. And then this one asks a lot of questions about taxes. They wanted to know lots of detail about property taxes, income taxes, county taxes, city taxes, just a lot of information. So I was trying to gather information from lots of different people. So I appreciate some of you and your patience with me as time crunches and I throw questions out. I really just appreciate your understanding that sometimes it's not always the way I want to do this, but sometimes I'm restricted with time, so I'm trying to do this quickly. The other section was a lot of workforce data that we had to provide, and Diana was so helpful in providing a lot of information. Major employers, information about that. They wanted to know city and county average wages. They wanted to know specific average wages for manufacturers in those particular communities. Luckily, we have a labor shed study where we got a lot of that information. So that labor shed study that you guys, we've talked about before and we've funded, that was helpful. And then they wanted to know about employee recruitment and training support, ongoing support. How are we going to meet those demands? So there's just a lot of information that we have to write, gather, put together, package, and then we have to package it in the way that they ask for. We can't just send it the way we want. So usually what happens is I'll put it in the Excel sheet the way they like it, and then I try to figure out how I can attach brochures and things like that. And then I send it to the project lead, which in this case was Jeff Freeman at the Department of Commerce. Well, in this situation, I've never had this before. We were to submit it to the actual site selection company. Jeff wasn't even allowed to see those. So that was odd. And so and then I had to create a Google Drive folder and add them, share it with them. And it was just a different process. So we made it. We got 1-day extension, which apparently when I asked for the extension, I was told you are not the only community. Everybody else is saying the same thing. So we were given till Monday instead of Friday. So we made it with 2 hours to spare. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Project was that?
That's Project Hedron. So I just want to kind of share a little bit of that, like I said, I talk about these projects in the process, and again, everyone is different. But cross our fingers, we'll maybe have a site visit out of it or something, potentially another project. Project Upcycle, this company was looking for 30 to 100 acres, very big spread, range of acres to build a plastics recycling facility. So we submitted the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park. That was a Department of Commerce project again. And then Project Atlas, this came from KCADC. And this was a construction machinery manufacturer looking for 40 acres to build a 300,000 square foot facility. And they wanted space to expand. So we submitted the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park for that. So it was a very, very busy week. Lemon Tree manufacturer and food and beverage industry, and they were interested in a minimum of 300 acres for a 1.2 million square feet facility. So we did not submit, but we keep track of that. In ongoing projects, I think I'll just be quick and just say, Project River, this is a project that has kind of come back and forth. I mean, I didn't know if it was going to be an active project, but it seems to be a real active one, especially as of this week. Tom and I are working on that together along with the state. So that's in the southern part of the county. And I think that's my updates for that project. I do have a couple of things I just wanted to go through. I know we've got some important information to discuss in today's meeting, so I'll try to be quick. For marketing event trips, I have gone to one crew event. It was a luncheon. This is where commercial real estate developers attend. And so I went to a luncheon there. In the future, upcoming, tomorrow I'll be going to an International Trade Commission event celebrating women in international business. Hope to make some connections with some people, developers there. And then Thursday, I'll be attending a crew Casey project tour. And this will be a tour of the 18th and Vine project that they're working on now. And then developers come, and so that's my opportunity to foster those relationships, plus get to see a pretty cool project in Kansas City. I'll be going to Industrial Asset Management Council's conference in Greenville, South Carolina on the 5th. That's a four-day conference. And so that is Greenville, South Carolina is kind of the hub for site selectors. So I'm trying to make the best out of that. Been reaching out to Department of Commerce representative that lives there and works there, and she's gonna try and set up a couple of meetings with some site selectors. I've also signed up to be kind of a door greeter person to help, so that's just more opportunity for me to get in front of those site selectors. I'll be attending a SCDC Meet the Consultants Conference, another conference with site selectors, and they typically do sessions on courses that are relative to economic development. Team Kansas, I just found out it's kind of a lottery. You put in your preferences. We're at the $2,500 level. I just got notified that the trips I'll be taking is one to Los Angeles in May and one to Indianapolis. These will be specific events where they invite site selectors, and then they have a few Kansas communities come, and we're not only there to market the state of Kansas, but also we get to highlight our specific communities. And then I get to do the KC Metro familiarization tour in the fall that the state is gonna put together. Been doing a lot of local presentations lately. I attended the Tonganoxie Business Association banquet where they asked me to do a brief kind of update on development. And then I did a LCDC update to the city of Basel at the end of February. Attended an economic development panel for the Leavenworth Lansing leadership course, where Penny, Josh, and Tom and I were a panel, and Jen Anders moderated that. And then on the 4th of March, we did a presentation to the Republican Town Hall, and that included Jeremy, Harland, Josh, Diana, and I. We put together an hour-long presentation and talked about LCDC and how it was structured and funded and how we do economic development. We're hoping to do several more upcoming. And then Thursday night, I do an update to the city of Lansing. And then 1st of April, I do the update to the city of Tonganoxie. And then the other things that I'll be working on is I'm gonna have to lock my door and just go in there and work on budgets, because I need to get those done. I know those city and county requests are gonna be, or they're gonna be asking me to submit my request for funding, so I need to get that done. And with that, I think that's my report.
Does anybody have any questions for LCDC? Looks like a lot of activity, a lot of good activity. Looks like we better have 30 acres or more in that group at least,
Yeah.
or a couple 100,000 square foot building. If anybody got one in their hip pocket we could use, that would be great. Any questions? Okay, we'll move on. The next item on the agenda I asked to be put on, and I think I sent out to everyone in advance, I call them bylaws. They're not really bylaws. They're resolutions and different things from our sponsoring partners. And you should have that on your email, and just keep it, and I'll keep sending it out, because as a former banker and reformed banker, following rules is pretty important to me, and so I want to make sure we got that out. So start with, this will be Dirk's last meeting with us. Dirk has, sent us his notice that the 25th will be his last day, and Dirk, I want to say thank you for serving on the board and all you've done for us and your feedback and knowing this part of the county as you do. We do appreciate it. We're gonna miss you. So that is a county appointment, and my understanding is Tom, correct me, and Vicky, I see your, smiling face on the TV screen. So if I'm wrong, but you've been appointed to fill that spot, is that accurate?
That is my understanding.
And Vicky, if I'm wrong, please correct me. And then we have some other board members' seats that are up. Greg is up this month, and he will be,
The city of Leavenworth is gonna have that on their agenda next Tuesday.
okay.
I'll verify that, the process.
That would be wonderful, because we want to get this thing right, and unfortunately, I'm not up yet, so that's not very good. And then, so what I've asked is, to put some information for this group to understand what the rules are as far as we can. And so you see a little memo that Dan put together, this was a year or two ago, about a couple of resolutions and about time limits, so we will all understand. Because I also think we started 4 or 5 years ago with appointing chairman and vice chairman and then rolling over every 2 years, and I think I am up. And, so we wanna, if we're gonna keep doing those things, we need to follow the rules and try to be consistent as we possibly can. And, so as we move forward, try to be consistent. If you go back, and a lot of you were here a long, long time ago, we had the same chairman and the same board members for 30 years plus. And, I don't know that there's anything that says yes or no on that, but now that we have the cities, county and 4 cities appointing members to the board, we ought to make sure that we assist them in helping when their time is up, when they need to make recommendations. So, if you go to the second page of the memo, this was Dan, back when Dan was the appointments in Lansing, Dan Guttrell, you can see what, at least at that time, what he expected that the term limits were, and they're not really term limits, you just have to go back and be reappointed. So they're, on the list, and, this was dated, because the city of Tonganoxie reappointed me last year. So Doug is up in 24 and Greg is up in 24. And Doug, I don't remember.
You just got.
I think they reappointed last year.
Yes.
So that would be,
Yes.
unfortunately, another 4-year term. And Greg, the city will tackle that.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm just bringing this and get it in front of you on the benefit. So is there any questions or comments, at all? I think from the chair perspective, my 2-year period, I think, is up in March, and then vice chair was Doug. Then historically, he would take over, and then we would appoint another vice chair. Now, Dan is the treasurer. And I think you've got, that we tried to do 2 years on that, I think, as well, so I think you're
I'm
still.
informed mine's good until next year.
Yeah, so anyways, who wants to be the next sucker? I mean, the next vice chair? Or is there any discussion, and we can have that conversation later, but I mean,
Who's not here?
Vernon. And that's, if you don't show up to defend yourself, that could happen. Any comments or discussion on that yet?
Would you entertain staying in the seat if nobody takes it?
Well, I think you fall off. I think you should. but
Doug should be, chair.
if Doug, well, and Doug and I can chat about it later and. But I think it is important to make sure that we keep as much continuity as possible, but also whatever rules there are, make sure they get followed. So I'll chat with Doug when we get back, unless somebody just has a burning desire to take over. I know that, it's important that we keep everybody informed, our partners, of what's going on, who's in charge and who's doing what. So, any comments from our cities or county?
So you guys are gonna discuss it?
Yeah.
Later on.
Well,
I've got nothing to add to this.
Josh, I think that was Josh.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, rats. Quite I was expecting, but that's okay. All right. We got that into the minutes and recorded. We'll move on to progress 2024 article update.
So the representative at the Times who has been collecting all the articles and ads and was sort of selling this publication, it's Kathy Hepdig. So I checked in with her at the beginning of the month and she said they were late getting to print. They were hoping to get it to print by the second week in March. She said they weren't gonna send us a proof, that need to send us a proof because everything that we submitted was within their guidelines and fit. They didn't need to make any changes. So when it finally gets out, it will go into, everybody's paper. All subscribers will get a copy as an insert. It's, like I said, gonna go into all the waiting rooms, anybody who's willing to let them leave one in a waiting room. So we're just really waiting to see the finished product. They'll deliver one to everybody who bought ads. And that's kind of, I haven't heard anything further from her, so.
Then you had shared with me that we'll get a digital
Oh,
copy.
yes, thank
And that
you.
we'll distribute that electronically. Now, is that usable or is that copywritten?
She said that they are going to distribute it digitally. It'll be made available digitally. I'm assuming that means through their website as well. So she told me it would be shareable. So I'm hoping that that will be the case.
Okay. You just wonder if we send it out, if it's copywritten, I think we need to be a little bit careful with that.
Well, I mean, I'm sure
Surely
that the
it's
link
not.
will,
You
if
pay
we,
for
if we put the link on our website, I'm sure it's gonna take you
To
to
their,
theirs. So, I mean, that should take care of any copyright issues.
thank you very much for working on that. Is there any questions at all on that? Okay. The regional transportation plan, I think staff has an update for us since Greg's not here. Lisa, you want to take that?
Yes, so I think most of you know, Governor Kelly and the Kansas Department of Transportation have announced the addition of 17 highway modernization expansion projects, of which the K5 new alignment from US 73 southeast to 435 is going to be on that list, So it'll likely take some time. We don't know if they've actually, I know there was discussion in, earlier that it would be a $35 million project, but, I don't think there's an actual number assigned to that yet. Plans need to take time. I mean, just everything's gonna take time. But just the fact that it is on that list is a good sign. So that's good stuff for Leavenworth County.
Have we heard anything from county? Tom, have you heard anything on that specific or?
As far as timelines and stuff, absolutely not. I was in a MARC meeting this morning, Total Transportation Policy Committee meeting. And KDOT was there. They just kind of went through the process of how they came up with the favored projects. And we're obviously one of them. But no, there's no mention of timelines or anything like that. And they were pretty quick to clarify that the projects that came out of this are on the development list, not necessarily the construction list at this moment. So don't really know exactly what that means, but all signs tend to point that this is a favorite project and it will get funded to go forward. So,
They have been slow.
Yes.
To get to them.
yes, and the question came up from another community, well, what if we've already been on the list and we've been waiting, where does that put us? And they didn't really have a clear answer as to what that means, whether those former projects get bumped up or bumped down, was not really addressed.
Yeah, you talk to your state senators and
There you go.
representatives and all who can harass. Okay. Anything else on that specific? And there is some, I think you have some on the, wasn't there another one on the list?
Yes, but I just realized nobody is here for the industrial site committee. Can I give?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give just a short update, and I wonder if Dan, it sounds like you could probably provide some more knowledge, but, details, but it had been a long time. We tried, the industrial site vision committee started by doing educational, information first. So we brought in experts like the Kansas Department of Commerce, we brought in Hunt Midwest, one of the Kansas City developers. We brought in, KCADC to kind of go through, project trends and things like that. Then we had, Evergy come in and kind of talk about, where would be a good, where in relation to existing infrastructure would be good for a site. We had Kansas Gas came in, and then we were trying to include rail, but we had a really hard time finding a connection. And then we asked Mike Stephen, because of his connection, Commissioner Mike Stephen, he has a connection to the rail as a job. And so he found a couple of contacts and got us connected. And so we had Aaron Evans from Union Pacific come to the last meeting. And he drove all the way from Oklahoma, that morning, so a 3-hour drive just to come and tell us, gave us a lot of great information. That's why when we were just talking, I thought you had some, did you want to say anything about any of the information that he said?
Well, I mean, they were looking at what was existing and, some of the alternatives if we didn't want to build new, like having a transfer station, buying some property where the rail is at. There has to be a certain amount of rail available for offloading and uploading and all that. But it would be, some communities have done, transfer stations instead of having rails to actual industrial parks. Others have bought rails at X dollars a foot, into the industrial park. We're talking about, a few acres, dedicated just for the rail. And then you gotta have a couple of, switching stations for switching trains from the active line into your industrial park at $1.2 million each. So that's what brought up my questions with the transfer station, and then the entire, then it just goes from truck. And we talked about that. And the next step is actually, we talked about how far away from different infrastructures we could, do and what is our target acreages. And the next step is going to be getting into groups, the visioning committee, getting into a couple of groups and doing some site visits.
And they're also looking at scoring criteria. There's a initial scoring criteria, and that discussion has been kind of ongoing as to what, given all this information that they've learned, how we should change that and what we should, what this group will use to score these properties that are
And they're gonna be
submitted.
doing that as part of the site visit, is doing their preliminary scoring, using the scoring matrix that was decided on.
Any questions on that? I know we have a good group, from this, board and, from our partners that sit in on that committee, and, it was a good conversation, I thought, and, probably the best in my 30 some odd years of economic development in this county, probably the best information we've ever gotten from a rail group. And, I was tickled, and I'm glad Mike, Stephen got that for us. That was really helpful. So he's not here, it's appreciative. Any other questions?
It's good information. Do we capture it somewhere?
Yes, we've got notes, we'll put that together. And he's providing his presentation that I need to get out to everybody. I apologize.
Yes,
So I
it's
can provide
a good presentation, and if the committee members have that, we should be able to, we'll get that distributed to all partners.
And he did provide where all of the rail within our county was located.
And it is all UP.
Yep, one company.
Okay, thank you for that update. We're gonna move on to long-term funding. I think Greg is going to establish that to start working towards, we're not in a big hurry, obviously, because of the election. We don't be in this cycle this year or in the November election, and we'll be back with you on that specifically. Is there anything else, Lisa, on
Well,
that?
that's it.
Moving on to the Panasonic impact, is there any updates? Does anybody have any updates that would help the group? Jeremy?
This isn't much of an update, but they are having a, what do they call it, small business. I've got it written down. Are you going to that, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, I am too. It's on Monday. It's called the Panasonic, Small Business Summit. And it's the first time that I remember Panasonic actually reaching out to the local businesses and saying, hey, what I assume, here's what we think you might need, here's how you submit, here's how you become a vendor, whatever the case is. So, we'll know more on Monday after lunch.
Is that, is there other folks from the county, not county and cities going that, do we know, George or Josh or Crystal, do you have anybody going or attending? Just wanna make sure that everybody has that opportunity to get their folks or somebody in.
And if you're not signed up, I will say I got an email earlier today that they're at capacity, so everyone is waitlisted right now, if you're not signed up.
Cool.
Sorry about that.
I also, may I say on that subject that our next investor luncheon, which is in place of our board meeting, is on the 11th of April. And Panasonic will be our speaker.
And they have
So
committed.
they have committed, I apologize, I'm told, yeah, they have just committed. So that'll be really important. If you want to go, you've got to RSVP. Panasonic has strict policies that require knowing who's going to be at the events where they speak. So they need to know ahead of time who's going to be there. They need you not to take pictures, and they need you to submit any questions that you would like to ask ahead of time. So submit those to Mary and we'll get those prepared for them.
Okay, that's important, everybody, so I think it's gonna impact every single community in the county and the county, so.
And that'll be in Deer Ridge Estate, which is in the Tonganoxie area. It's not in the city.
North of Tonganoxie,
Yeah.
about 5 miles,
Nice place, nice venue.
so get on the list if you can, highly recommend it. Is there any other comment on that? I think that.
Are you gonna be sending out an email
Yes,
for people just to respond to?
there should be, we've sent out, is it 2 now? Or
Yes.
2 have gone out. So one was a save the date and the next one, so we'll get another one out.
Good. Anything else on, any questions on that? Any thoughts? We were already seeing the impact of that already, so we'll take advantage of it. Okay, we're gonna move on to affiliated partners. Let's see, who was first up? I can't remember who was first to chime in. I think George was this time around. George, Tonganoxie, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Just continue to move dirt on some big projects, the Roush Coleman housing project, 142 single family homes there on the east side of town. We continue to see great progress on the DSM site. You probably recall it's a 65,000 square foot facility in the Tonganoxie Business Park. And so always good to see that progress continuing. We're awaiting on some word from the county about potential annexation of around 80 acres that's directly across the street from the existing Tonganoxie Business Park. Those property owners submitted voluntary annexation. Just trying to clean up some of that submittal. So we're excited to see all that taking place. And as far as the city council goes, we do an annual spring retreat. It's kind of a budget kickoff, and I'm sure Mr. Donnelly and the other city council members are excited about getting up and ready to go at 8 a.m. Saturday. So look forward to seeing you there, Chris. Thanks.
All right, thanks, George. Josh. Or Dan, who gets it?
I am here. Sorry about that. It was slow on the draw. So Lansing is excited about what's going on in the city. We are expecting dirt to start to be moved on the apartments here shortly. The dirt that has been moved quickly along K7 to get the sewer project all the way down to McIntyre. That is ahead of schedule, which might actually, because of the temperature throughout February, that might mean we can push some or pull some projects forward later in the year. We'll see what happens with that. And then let's see, we've got a project which will shut down 4-H for a couple of days here after school gets out. We're going to be doing some replacement of a culvert and whatnot. And then lastly, we had a visioning session over the beginning of the month on a Saturday where staff and council members got together to discuss the future of Lansing. Kind of came back resoundingly that the council wants to focus on some economic development and housing options for the city. So I'm excited for that. That's somewhat in my wheelhouse. And so I've got some things that we'll be presenting to the city over the next couple of months to see what we can do to allow for a little bit more affordable housing, more housing options for the residents. So that's what I got.
Josh? All right, Pacer.
Hi, thanks. So we obviously, our 155th Street project is well underway. We're excited for that. It's obviously gonna cause some disruption to the city, but we're doing our best to make sure that we've got a plan in place to address that. That project's gonna move pretty quickly. We are just about ready to move into our new city hall, so that is pretty terrific, obviously. The UPS store is, I think they're finally finishing their tenant finishes, so hopefully they'll be ready to come online here before long. That one has been a long time in the making. The Metro Green Trail project that will go along with the 155th Street project will also be underway here before too long. Thank you.
So it seems like everyone is looking ahead of the year and starting the budget process. The city of Leavenworth is doing a goal setting session. That'll be a half day this Friday with our city commission. Tonight's meeting is a study session where the city will get an update from our partners with DePaul. They were awarded $600,000 in affordable funding from the ARPA funds to do some projects in Leavenworth. So we're excited to hear their update at the city commission tonight at 6 p.m. And then still working on Vision Zero project. So this is the community engagement portion. This is looking at fatalities, traffic injuries around the city of Leavenworth. We had sort of a kickoff community engagement section, and we continue on. There's one coming up at the Easter egg hunt. There'll be one at the Master Gardeners event at the Heritage Center. So definitely want to get the word out. The information is available on our website, and folks can drop a pin and put some comments on regarding traffic safety. So really just want to increase participation in that project as well. And then the RIDE LV numbers, the microtransit project, we got the numbers for February, and we had 1,386 rides. So that program continues to be well used in the city of Leavenworth. That's all I have for today.
Is that just Monday through Friday?
Yep, Monday through Friday, roughly 8 to 5.
Is it increasing?
So we've seen it had a pretty significant increase when it started, and it seems like it's running at about 1,300, 1,400 to 1,500 per month in rides. So in some ways stabilizing, and potentially that's based on availability of the 3 buses. So we've seen those pretty much fill up and the system really be running your capacity.
So that's about, just doing some quick math, that's about what, 80 rides a day?
Your math is better than mine off the top of your head.
Okay.
Pretty close.
Yeah, that's not
1,500.
right.
Pretty good.
40 hours a week, 40 hours a week,
Yeah.
4 point some weeks a year.
And we've heard great feedback on the program. I mean, it's, if you look at the locations, people are using it for what it was designed to be used for. So to get to the grocery store, to get to work, to get to doctor's appointment. So like it's really being utilized. So we have some heat mapping on how that's going, and there's some updates that'll be presented. I know we went to the city commission maybe a month or two ago, and I'm sure there'll be another update shortly. So
Is that a 2-year pilot?
it's a 3-year.
3-year?
So we have obviously the outside grant funds and the city's also contributing funds.
Okay, thank you. Leavenworth County, Tom, you got that one or? Vicky,
Absolutely.
or-
Every month, it seems like I come here and talk about grants. I'm still talking about grants, just a lot more of them. Energy conservation grants, historical, redevelopment grants, trying to assist Leavenworth County Fairgrounds. They have some updates that they wanna make, that will improve their traffic and improve the experience for their users as well. So assisting them in identifying some things there. USDA business grants, still putting on a small business seminar sometime in the next 60 days. Planning for a large retail conference in May, setting up meetings and events to accompany that. Was gonna talk about K-5, but we've already covered that. And then a trend, which really isn't a trend, because I think everybody hopefully by this point recognizes it, but I think we're gonna see a lot of alternative energy projects show up. We're already starting to, Lisa and I, she mentioned she and I are working on one a different one contacted. I'll bring Lisa into the loop on that as well. Not necessarily wind energy or necessarily even solar, just different stuff that, you know, our region really hasn't been exposed to in the past. And I think those things are gonna come online because it's pretty evident that some folks have figured out how to make significant dollars utilizing existing electricity and maybe figuring out how to sell it back to other people. So it's gonna be interesting as we continue down that road. And I think the larger investments around Kansas City are gonna continue to spur interest in creating energy related projects. So maybe the landscape of what we're all used to may change a little bit as far as the project outlooks go. So we'll see.
Can't wait to see
There
that.
we go.
Anything else?
That's it.
Before we close today, any questions for any of our partners at all? Please ask. Josh was kind of talking about housing and, as chair, I'll take some liberties as, to share. I serve as vice chair of the Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, which is, it's a sub part of which I also serve on the board for the Kansas Development Finance Authority, which is the funding mechanism for almost everything that goes on in the state of Kansas. And in August, the Kansas Housing Resources Corporation has their annual housing, meeting. There's 600 to 800 people that go to it, anywhere from developers to, the federal government, all kinds of things, and I encourage our cities to get involved in that. If you aren't, I'd be happy to get you to the CEO of the corporation, or get you information about it, but there is a lot of ways, and it's not just low-income housing. It's a lot of different projects that the Kansas Housing Resources Corporation is in charge of, and they get all the money from the state to fund tax incentives, to fund development for housing needs. And it could be single family or apartments or whatever. So I encourage you, if your city is not, or I'm not sure exactly how the county would work into that. But I would encourage you to maybe send somebody to that and get educated about it. You can go on a KHRC. It is a state quasi-governmental entity that was built by statute along with the Kansas Development Finance Authority. So anyways, I know we need housing. I can tell you in 100 ways that we need from low end to high end all throughout the county. And there is an opportunity here to find another way to get funded, or if you know some developers, and I know some of our committee members on some of the other committees are involved with So anyways, I just throw that out to you and I'd be happy to put anybody in touch with the powers to be in Topeka, so. That's all I have for the day. Is there any other discussion for the good of the order? Well, that turned out shorter then, so we'll make that a little bit extra days back. All right, thank you. We'll see you next week on, what's the date?
16th of April.
16th of April. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think it was.